Last but not least, here is Emily Voorhees, the chair-elect of STEMlink, to tell you a little bit more about that and to get us started. Emily, take it away.
Thanks, Laura. Hello, as she said, I'm the chair-elect slash vice chair of STEMlink, and STEMlink stands for STEM Librarianship in North Carolina, and we have members from a whole variety of different types of libraries, basically whose work intersects with science, technology, engineering, math in some way. And so that can be anything from, public librarians doing sort of science outreach or STEM outreach to academic, liaison librarians and everything in between. And we have 4 programs a year, usually 2 in person and 2 virtual, although obviously much more on the virtual side right now. And at those programs, we tend to learn about new tools or hear about STEM events or programs that are going on, and just generally exchange ideas. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, we'd love it if you'd have a look at the STEMlink page on the NCLA website and consider joining the section. And I'm also going to post a link in the chat in just a moment for our next program coming up in September, September 22nd, and that's called How Much Time Do You Have? Quick and Flexible Activities to Add Some Metacognition to Your One-Shot Science Information Literacy Sessions. And like I said, that's September 22nd at 11 a.m. And that's all I have. So thanks so much for attending. Thanks for the intro, Laura, and I will hand it over to Megan.
Hi, everybody. I am Megan. I am the science librarian at UNC Greensboro. Hi, Joe. Okay, yeah, I can't look at the chat. So let me share my screen really quick. And since my slides are kind of tiny, I don't understand what's going on. I did share a link to the slides so you can follow along. Okay, so this is where to get started with citizen science programming and introduction for librarians. I'm going to introduce a lot of material, and there's so much more out there. This is just the very tip of the iceberg, and I wanted to try to give a little bit to see, I can't have the chat window up too. I have too many windows already. So just jump in if there's an issue. So I wanted to give just a little bit to everybody as far as whether they're in school libraries and public libraries or in academic libraries. But like I said, there is so much more out there. And if anybody ever has questions or wants more information, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help. So we're going to start just with what is citizen science. So the Webster definition is it's scientific work undertaken by members of the general public, often in collaboration with or under the direction of professional scientists and scientific institutions. Of course, it's a mouthful, so more simply, it's just public participation in scientific research. But it can really be a lot more than that. Citizen science is an invitation to everyone to participate in real science on topics that they care about. Public participation in scientific research is not a new concept. I'm only going to give a couple of examples to keep it brief, but lighthouse keepers began collecting data about bird strikes as long ago as 1880. Then the National Audubon Society started its annual Christmas bird count in 1900 that they still do today. And in 1992, the NSF funded a series of projects through Cornell called Public Participation in Ornithology that still continues today as well. For those of you that don't know, ornithology is the study of birds. So what does that look like today? This participation can take a lot of forms. So I do want you to kind of exit out of our presentation for a second and in I think 5 minutes and go to go.uncg.edu/snapshot. And it's going to take you to Project Snapshot Serengeti. So over on the right, there's a classify button. And then it's going to take you to a page that you can go to a tutorial, and it'll walk you through what it wants you to do for the project. So I will mute myself while people go out. I'll leave this slide up and I will call everybody back in 5 short minutes. Okay, we will definitely be coming back in about 30 seconds, just so I can get through some of this. And I definitely want to talk about your experience. Okay, I'm definitely seeing some positive comments in the chat. So if y'all want to come back to the presentation or continue classifying while you listen, I know it is very addictive, but you just participated in a huge citizen science project that is worldwide. Everybody in the world kind of participates in this one. And since they collect so much data, Snapshot Serengeti actually produces a lot of publication about accuracy of data and best practices when it comes to using trail cameras to process ecological data. So the pictures that you're looking at, this is from a camera trap. This has been a game changer in the world of citizen science research. A camera trap is just a remotely activated camera that is equipped with a motion sensor or an infrared sensor, or uses a light beam as a trigger. Digital image collection from camera trap surveys is a rapidly expanding method that is used to study rare and elusive species worldwide. However, as inexpensive digital cameras have proliferated, such surveys are increasingly limited by human processing capacity. Engaging citizen scientists to classify images can dramatically increase the amount of information researchers can extract from large data sets. Snapshot Serengeti provides a case study in engaging citizen scientists in rapidly and accurately processing large volumes of ecological imagery. By engaging citizens in the processing of every image, multi-species camera surveys can dramatically expand the scope of conservation monitoring. One of the questions that I saw that I wanted to address real quick is about why there is not an I don't know answer. So they use this crowdsourcing to come up with the species identification. So you are not the only person that's looking at an image. So it's okay if you think that you might not know if you're correct, because other people are going to look at that as well. And there's a great paper about the accuracy within the Snapshot Serengeti project that talks about if they have at least 10 people look at the images, they're 97% accurate. And that accuracy rate is higher than if a single scientist looks at an image. So to help people understand how citizens can contribute in huge ways, I always like to use the story of the Sloan Digital Sky Survey. The SDSS created the most detailed three-dimensional maps of the universe ever made, of multicolor images of about 1/3 of the sky and spectra for more than 3 million astronomical objects. The volumes of information being collected are just staggering, and future projects like the Large Synoptic Survey that will start in 2022 promises to produce more data than we can really imagine now being able to be processed. So the initial images of 900,000 galaxies from SDSS were being classified by a handful of people in Oxford, including a graduate student, Chris Lintott. This was back in 2007. And Lintott calculated that one graduate student classifying images for 12 hours per day could only complete about 50,000 identifications over 1 month. He realized that it doesn't really take years of studying astrophysics to recognize a galaxy's type by its shape and structure. It only takes a bit of practice, and anyone from school children to retirees can do it. So instead of subjecting one person to such a huge task, what if this task could be distributed to volunteers? So Lintott developed Galaxy Zoo and called upon volunteers to look at digital images of galaxies from SDSS and classify them as spirals, ellipticals, or mergers. When Galaxy Zoo launched, participants classified 70,000 galaxies per hour in the first days and 50 million in the first year. And 13 years later, Galaxy Zoo is still running and is a project that you can find on Zooniverse, the platform that we just used. So far, this sounds like a pretty sweet deal for researchers, right? After all, why spend hours scouring data yourself when you can just get volunteers to do it in their spare time for free? But the benefits of citizen science go both ways. Researchers find the help that they need to manage large data sets and make new discoveries, and volunteers become part of a community that facilitates exploration, communication, and scientific advancement. We've already seen some pretty great examples of how citizen science assists with scientific research. As you may have noticed, some scientists have enormous data sets that are too large to be analyzed by individuals. Though computers are now able to analyze data and crunch numbers at an astonishing pace, there are still some tasks that are better suited to the human brain. In particular, humans excel at recognizing patterns, making them particularly adept at identifying faces, objects, words, and sounds. Computers are now sometimes being used to identify faces, but this is extremely expensive technology that still only works in ideal conditions and generally fails where lighting is poor or where faces are turned to the side. Images used for scientific research, for examples of galaxies or wildlife, are rarely ideal. Try getting a zebra to pose for a snapshot, or asking a galaxy to tilt a little to the left. Computers fail to identify them correctly, yet most humans can identify a zebra, even if it is only half of the animal or it's a poorly lit image. So citizen science also contributes to community engagement. Engaging a community in projects, though, may take a little bit of trial and error because every community is different. But the effort of organizing events around local research can be well worth the time. And these events seem to get more involvement and people will stay involved afterwards. People are always interested in what's happening in their own backyard, and we'll talk a little bit more about how to find and incorporate some of these projects. And my favorite, of course, is that citizen science, how it contributes to science literacy. So in 2015, there was a study conducted by the Pew Research Center, and it was reported that the public's limited knowledge of science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, is a problem for scientific progress. It was revealed that scientists and the general public see scientific issues through different lenses, creating a gap between the scientific consensus and public belief. Citizen science projects contribute to awareness, knowledge, and understanding of key scientific concepts related to the study at hand. This conceptual understanding ranges from purely scientific information to environmental issues and regulations. Participants in projects report increased science inquiry skills, including an increased ability to identify organisms, use measurement instruments, and to collect field data following specific protocols. Most importantly, participating in projects helps the public experience and understand the process of research, the way that scientific questions are asked, answered, and debated by the scientific community. So now let's talk about some simple ways to incorporate citizen science into any type of library. School libraries can explore many projects that have correlating lesson plans. So many projects include all the classroom resources for teachers. For Planet Hunters, there is a 100-page guide developed by NASA to go with this Zooniverse project. The guide includes lesson plans and supplemental materials that correlate with Common Core and next-gen science standards. Somewhere along the way, it seems that researchers figured out they can get more involvement in their projects if they create materials for teachers to easily include them in their classroom. Classroom materials are usually nestled in the project's website, but if you haven't chosen a specific project yet or are still exploring, you can search within SciStarter for only projects that include these. SciStarter is a platform that was created with a grant from NLM, I believe, and NSF. And this kind of indexes citizen science projects. And I will give a tour of SciStarter because it's amazing at the end of this presentation. So public libraries can get involved by organizing events based on their community's interest. If you kind of empower the community you're working with by letting members know how they can engage with your agency and design your training to build scientific understanding and skills throughout your community so that everyone can fully participate in the project. So one project that is really big here in North Carolina is EcoExplore. There's a lot of great examples, but in the interest of time, I'm only going to go through one or two for each type of library. So EcoExplore is a project that numerous public libraries have gotten involved with, as well as some science centers and other entities as well. So it was created by the North Carolina Arboretum with a goal to increase interest in STEM education and careers in North Carolina students, particularly in underserved populations. Participants take pictures of plants and animals and upload them to the EcoExplore site to earn points and badges. So this project has been really successful by gamifying the process. There are numerous badges, points, and prizes involved. The badges align with different seasons and require very specific tasks to be completed in an allotted time frame to earn the badge. Points are earned by submitting photos of plants or animals. And there's opportunities to get bonus points. So like right now we're in the herpetology season. So if you upload a picture of a turtle or reptile, it's going to earn you bonus points toward that badge. So libraries have gotten involved by being a designated hotspot, a get spot, or a lone spot. So hotspots are special areas for eco-explorers to make observations of plants and animals. This is usually around a science center or lakes and parks and things where there's a lot of ecological activity. So get spots are places where participants can cash in their points in exchange for prizes. This is what initially got my daughters involved because they saw that you could win an iPod Touch if you got enough points. So they were really excited at first to kind of get engaged in this and try to win some prizes. Lone spots are locations where participants can use their library card to check out equipment such as binoculars, insect nets, iPods, iPods, where they can take the pictures and upload them from that iPod, and to check out trail cameras. So through supporters of this project, there are funds available for libraries to be involved at little or no cost to them. And now, of course, since I am an academic librarian, this is where I'm most involved and I'm most knowledgeable about how academic libraries can get involved. So the benefits of engaging K-12 students in science learning that is consistent with the nature of scientific inquiry are really well recognized. Several authors, though, have argued that inquiry-based learning is also important at the undergraduate level because students that enter college without this experience and because inquiry-based learning is valuable for college students regardless of their background. In general, inquiry-based learning involves a departure from education focused solely on content and instead promotes engagement in the processes of science, encouraging students to pose questions, generate and analyze data, draw conclusions, and communicate findings. These projects also provide an excellent platform to expand the accessibility of experiential learning opportunities for a broad range of non-major science students or at institutions with limited resources, such as community colleges. So this is a great example of how an instructor included a project in a microbiology lecture at Roane State Community College. To generate this list of defined online citizen science projects, they used SciStarter to sort through over 800 projects, and they had criteria where they selected the projects that were relevant to either the student's major and microbiology and course topics. They also limited to projects that could be conducted entirely online and that had kind of a limited time investment. Students were required to spend a minimum of 3 hours participating in their chosen online citizen science project, And in addition, they were instructed to record thorough notes on their activities and to take screenshots of the project in progress to turn in with their final report as verification of active participation. There are some platforms now that are incorporating ways for teachers and professors to monitor involvement in the project. But that is still, it's not very widely used yet. So this is still, when professors are incorporating this, they have to think about how to verify that the students actually engaged with the material. So for this project, 2 lecture periods were set aside to give students kind of scheduled time to work on their project and to access the campus computer resources if they needed to. And then the culmination of the activity was a mini science report that required background research and an overall evaluation of the citizen science project. So another way that you can get involved in an academic library is by helping faculty create projects. So creating projects with faculty can really take a lot of different forms. My biggest advice would be to have some familiarity with different types of projects and how they work. Currently, I'm assisting our research team at the UNCG wetlands on creating a Zooniverse project out of about 4 years worth of camera trap data. So they'd had some trouble in the past just processing the data from these camera traps because there was so much. And so now we are creating a project just like the Snapshot Serengeti to help get that data processed. So building from the ground up has really presented us with more questions than answers. But I think my obsession with Zooniverse and other projects has helped kind of to give advice about what successful projects have in common. And I can talk about that too. If y'all want to save your questions to the end. And right now, I actually do want to give you a quick tour of SciStarter. Let's see. Hey, Laura. Or anybody, can you see the SciStarter website? Where's the chat? There we go. Okay, so this is SciStarter. Again, it was created, I guess we can look at the funding that they've gotten a lot of funding to create this, and they really have a huge support system and some great ideas. So the best thing is this, or what I think right now, is this project finder. So this you can look for, and I know that since I like biodiversity, that is what I tend to show people a lot of. If you're not into biodiversity and animals, there's more projects than just, you know, looking at critters. But for K through 12, I really recommend kind of sorting these projects through projects that have classroom materials. And then in the time of COVID, you can also, and then you pick your age, whatever, if you want an elementary school or middle school, and then you can do projects that are exclusively online. And so I think that's really helpful initially, especially as we're moving our classes online and things, to be able to just look at those projects. So then you can scroll through. These are all ones, again, that have, oh, there's Snapshot Safari. Oh, that's not the same one we did, sorry. Oh, I like the Cedar Creek one. It's another trail cam one. But it has a link to the classroom materials that you can go through and look and see, you know, what will work for your classroom. And let's see, there was another thing I was going to show you real quick. So let's not do exclusively online. We can look at local projects. So a lot of these, they do a lot on the coast, which is going to be ones that you'll see in North Carolina a lot, but let's see. So you can scroll through these two and see the ones, again, that have classroom materials and go and look at what they have. Sometimes it's not a direct link. You might have to go through and say, oh, okay, where's the education stuff, links, education center. Okay, I'm not gonna fit, I didn't have one already picked out for you. So I'm not gonna watch you, or make you watch me struggle through to try to find it. But another great thing that they have, and this is something that I've been talking with one of the co-founders of SciStarter about, was kind of creating this gateway. So I don't know if there's anybody here from NC State that can speak more to this, but you can have kind of a gateway created for you if you have several different courses that have specific projects that they use. You can use that to kind of collect all of those in one place. The Girl Scouts also has one, and this is to kind of keep track of what projects their kids are working on and things like that. So I will stop sharing for now, and I'm going to open up for any questions or comments that people have.
I had a quick question, Megan. The SciStarter, so if you were doing somewhere else in the world, does it just cover the US? So if you were like doing a classroom project on, you know, certain particular areas of the world, you could bring in, say, the Middle East and, you know, biodiversity there or something like that. Would that help or?
Yeah, it's not just based in the US. They collect projects worldwide, like the Snapshot Serengeti, you know, that's very obviously in Africa. And so they have this worldwide network of these projects. And, you know, a lot of it, I mean, a lot of the classroom materials that I've seen for some of those projects have also included activities to kind of explore that country or explore that region, and then kind of go into that project and see, okay, what is biodiversity there, or water issues there, what could be causing it. It is, again, not purely biodiversity, but I always kind of fall back on that because I like it. But yes, it is a worldwide network. How many of y'all are still classifying images on Snapshot Serengeti? Uh-huh, I see. I know it is really addictive. So some of these, a lot of these projects, I mean, they will give you attribution when they write a paper if you know, have kind of assisted in making a big contribution to their research. I know with the one of the astronomy projects that were classifying galaxies, the public was actually the one that helped to discover a new type of galaxy. It's called like green peas or something. Because when you classify those projects, if you have, or when you're classifying a picture or something, if you have a question about it, there's that done and talk button, and you can reply to the researchers or ask questions and they'll answer them. And so with these galaxies, a lot of people had the same question about a specific type that kept coming up. And I think it was a group of about 15 different people that were attributed to discovering a new type of galaxy. Oh yeah, Danielle, Eco Explorer is really great, and I've heard that it's very easy if you work in a public library to kind of get on board with lending out stuff or being a get spot or a loan spot. They're really good about helping in this area. I'm sure after COVID, there would be a lot more need for that. Well, I thought I was going to go over time, really.
Does anybody have any experience? Maybe they would like to speak to a project they've done in their library or something like that. I know that we went at a STEMlink trip one time to, oh, where is it? Durham? That has the library that has the park. Is that Durham or is that Chapel Hill? I'm mixing up my public libraries now. Anyway, they have those library kits where you could take the kids could check them out and take out with the binoculars and the little things to identify things along the way. And I thought it is Chapel Hill. Thank you, Emily. Maybe you can talk about it a little bit better than me. But I'd love to hear if anybody else has any experience there.
Yeah, there are a lot of projects with the trail cams too. I know NC State does. It's called Candid Critters, where you can check out a trail cam, and they teach you how to use it and stuff, and then you put it out over a couple of weeks, and then process the images and upload them to their site and stuff too. So, yeah, just having the trail cams. Sorry, Lenny has a question. It says, I was wondering how you'd work with the submitted responses knowing there's likely to be lots of bad data. So Lenny, do you mean bad data as far as like misidentified animals? Yes. So they're actually, so Snapshot Serengeti, because they have been around for a while and they've collected so much data, there is a paper that talks about accuracy. And because they kind of crowdsource their answers, not kind of, because they do crowdsource their answers, there's not, it kind of takes care of this like misidentification. Because if you think about, I mean, before they were crowdsourcing this, there would be one scientist looking at each picture, and if they were tired or if they made a mistake, then that's just out, that's just gone. And not to mention that if they're taking these same images and they're only studying elephants, they're going to throw out everything that doesn't include an elephant in it. And so that's a lot of data that's lost. But so they found that this is why you're not the only one looking at each picture. The picture has to be looked at a certain number of times, depending on the project, before it's considered classified, and then it's kind of retired from rotation. And they found that as long as at least 10 people look at that picture, the accuracy rate is, I think it's 97%. And then so anybody who got it wrong, it doesn't really matter because other people went behind you and kind of got it right. And this is why they don't really give you that I don't know answer, because a lot of people would choose that and they want you to try to guess something, because you're probably more right than you think. But yeah, that's why it's like, don't worry if you get it wrong. There's it will kind of work itself out. Oh, good, Susan, you do the Critter Cam project too. That's awesome. Yeah. So other than sorry, there's another question. Other than SciStarter, do you know of a good way or good list or way to find a project? So I do did I close it already? In my at the end of my presentation, there's some citizen science resources. So again, SciStarter and then Zooniverse is really great. iNaturalist, if anybody has heard of or used that, they also have a lot of projects on there. And then citizenscience.gov is another site that tries to kind of index all of the projects that have been funded through a government entity. So I do, again, have those are listed on the presentation. Yeah, another one that they do, I think public libraries would be really good at. Who is it? Somebody in STEMlink told me about Creek Week. Who, do y'all remember who it was? Because I signed up. There's a Creek Week projects. Yeah, Laura, I think it was. So I signed up for Creek Week. I'm in Randolph County, and their Creek Week they ended up doing online just through iNaturalist because of COVID, and there were a lot of other counties involved. And actually, here. I won in, I can't even show it. I won in our county with the most observations on a naturalist for the time period. So whatever. Thanks, Sarah. It's going on my alpha. Okay, well, if there's oh, I thought I was trying to show up. It's a lunchbox that says 2020 Biothon winner or whatever, and there's some seeds, some wildflower seeds. Yeah, it was really cool. Oh, so iNaturalist, I can see. Oh, two good questions. So iNaturalist is a platform that for biodiversity observations where anybody can take a picture. Oh, thanks, Terry. And anybody can take a picture of, whether it be a plant or animal or whatever, and it will kind of record that in this platform, and then other people can help identify it, and then scientists can kind of use that data to, track migration patterns that change, or, if a certain animal's kind of range is declining, it can track that. And I mean, it's a really great platform. I really suggest exploring that. So yes, Lenny, citizen science can be about the humanities also. If you look at Zooniverse and go to the projects, you can sort through based on your area of interest, whether it's the arts or history. They do have some humanities projects on there as well. So I need to explore a little more to kind of get some of my coworkers maybe trying to incorporate some of these into their courses also. But again, I'm a biodiversity nerd, so I'm not as familiar with them, but yes, they were out there. Yes, science does not always mean only science. That is correct. Well, again, anybody, I mean, y'all feel free to reach out if you have questions after. I love talking about citizen science and playing with stuff. Do I have experience with lending collections materials side for libraries? So we're working on UNCG getting a set of lenses that will attach to any camera, any smartphone, so you can get better pictures of animals. We're purchasing them for a class in the fall that's going to be studying squirrel coat color. So we're just getting into that. And so I'm hoping that we will have more to say about the collections and lending side of this.
Squirrel what?
Squirrel coat color. Apparently, it's no, like they're just the differences in, you know, whether they're more red or more gray or
their coat color. Okay, you were saying that together. I wasn't sure.
Sorry. Yes, the coat color, their fur tint.
That's pretty great. We have a few more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions? Please let us know now or type them in. I feel like I've been asking all the questions. So
I know. I'm sorry. My timing is horrible. I'm either go really long or really short, but I do want time for questions. Let's see. Sounds great. I feel like the hardest thing with citizen science is feeling overwhelmed. Yes, with all the options. Um, Tips on focusing in, I mean, it's really, what are you interested in? I mean, if it's something, again, I focus a lot on biodiversity because that's what I'm interested in, but it's really good. I mean, to play with a lot of different projects just to see what's out there, and you'll kind of start to get a sense of what works for you or what might work for your classroom, things like that. So just play a lot with a lot of different projects.
I have sort of a comment. I don't know if it's as much of a question.
Yes.
I'm Wanangwa from Polk County Libraries, and my husband moved here from Oklahoma, and he loves keeping track of stuff out there. And he follows a guy who, I guess you'd call him a citizen scientist. He has a blog out in Dallas, Fort Worth about all the wildlife he sees.
Uh-huh.
And it was one of the things that struck me, that it doesn't matter where you are. There's always something to observe. And
Yes.
I can't remember which book it was. It was a library book I checked out one time that talked about a guy who would just go out and observe like the same 5-foot square in his woods at all seasons and see the different insects and the different plants. So I think I like what you said about focusing in on whatever you're interested in, but also just, you know, wherever we are, there's always something we can observe. So.
Yes, that is definitely true. I think most of my observations on iNaturalist are from my porch because I'm watching the kids, whatever, sitting out there. Are we still recording with my margarita? And, you know, whatever critter runs by, or the kids will be like, look what we found. And so we get pictures and upload it. And yeah, really, it doesn't matter where you are. There's always other naturalists out there that are interested in the data. Let's see, thoughts or
I
ideas?
think we have one more question and then we'll have to wrap it up.
Yes, thoughts or ideas on partnerships with educational or community partnerships, local museums, or community and state parks. This is a great thing. Most of the well, actually all of the very successful projects have been from partnerships with other entities that aren't necessarily libraries, or, you know, aren't necessarily universities. There's lots of different projects. A big one out of UNCG is the Box Turtle Connection, and this is a statewide conservation effort, and it's, you know, they partnered with our local state parks is who their initial partners were. So yes, definitely explore partnerships, and that's yes. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Megan. This has been a great presentation. Want to thank all the participants for coming and joining in with us. And we're in room A, and stay tuned for the top of the hour, which will be non-traditional career paths, library skills outside the library, which it'll be really great. Women in Libraries putting on. But this has been fantastic, and this is my second time sitting through something like this with you, and it's really, you're so passionate about it. I love it.
Whatever. Oh no, me again.
But
Sorry.
thank you, Emily. I'm sorry I kind of took over the question thing.
No,
Sorry.
thank you.
Bye.